That's the regular mount and the regular back take. Okay.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course. This video will be discussing principles of the match. Positions and point scoring. In order to score points, athletes must stabilize the position for 3 seconds. Athletes who arrive at a point scoring position while caught in a submission hold shall only be rewarded points once they have freed themselves from the attack and stabilized the position for 3 seconds.
So every point score position you need 3 seconds stabilization. Okay? And the referee cannot start any countdown if you are being attacked for any submission. Okay? So if you are being caught for a submission, the referee only start the countdown when you fully escape from that submission.
Athletes who arrive at a cumulative point scoring position while caught in a submission hold shall only be awarded points once they have freed themselves from the attack and stabilized the position for 3 seconds.
The same applies for cumulative points. Okay?
Athletes who arrive at a point scoring position while caught in a submission will not be awarded points if they do not free themselves from the attack while in scoring position.
So while you are in a scoring position, you'll be attacked for the whole time, and at any time you get free, there is no points, no advantage, okay? The advantage that you are seeing now on the screen is because the referee believes the submission for BG was in a real dangerous situation, so he scored advantage for the submission attack.
An athlete who reaches one or more positions but is being attacked with a submission hold by his or her opponent shall only be rewarded 1 advantage point if they do not escape the attack prior to the end of the match. The 3-second stabilization count for one or several point scoring positions will be interrupted when the opponent locks in a submission hold during the count.
At that time, if he was free from any submission for less than 3 seconds, he already had that advantage. As he couldn't complete the point score position, he got advantage.
Matches should unfold as a progression of positions of technical control that ultimately result in a submission hold. Therefore, athletes who voluntarily relinquish a position in order to again score points using the same position for which points have already been awarded shall not be awarded points upon achieving the position again.
So now is when we start seeing the rules, okay? That was the progression. So if by yourself you give up the position to try score again, you are going against the progression of the fight, okay? So you're not gonna score.
Advantages. Number 1. An advantage point is counted when an athlete achieves a point scoring position requiring 3 seconds of control but is unable to maintain control for the entire duration. Number 2. An advantage is characterized by near completion of a point scoring position. The referee should assess whether the opponent was in any real danger and if the athlete clearly came close to reaching the point scoring position. The athlete shall be awarded an advantage point when they attempt a submission hold and the opponent is in real danger of submitting. It is the referee's duty to assess how close the submission hold came to fruition.
So, advantage for submission, okay? Guys, you need to keep working on your head, okay? There is only advantage for the submission if you put your opponent in a really dangerous situation, okay? If you really get close to make your opponent tap, okay? Even that your opponent is defending, because you have to defend yourself all the time, okay? That doesn't mean that's advantage, okay? The advantage is only if the attacker make his opponent almost tap.
Even if the submission is well locked, the athlete only scores an advantage if the opponent is in real danger of submitting. An advantage point should be awarded by the referee even after a match has run its course, but before announcing the result. The referee may only award an advantage point once there is no longer a chance of the athlete reaching a point scoring position. No advantages will be awarded for sweeps that start and end in a 50-50 guard situation.
Just to keep the concept of progress as well, back in the day we changed the rules to 50-50, okay? Because an athlete was playing 50-50 guards and try to go back and forth to score multiple advantage and use our strategy to win the fight, okay? To do that, we remove the advantage of sweeps that start and finish in a 50-50 guard situation. Just watch out because you can still score normally 2 points for a sweep, okay? If I am in a 50-50 guard and I come on top and stay for more than 2 seconds, I will score 2 points normally.
If you have any questions regarding Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course. This video will be focusing on takedowns. The next sequences will show you some of the most common examples of situations where takedown points will or will not be awarded. In order for a takedown to be considered, the movement must start with both feet on the ground of the athlete performing the action. When one of the athletes starts the movement and causes the opponent to land on their back, sideways or seated, establishing top position for 3 seconds. When an athlete forces their opponent to the ground on all fours or belly down, points will only be awarded once the athlete controls the opponent's back. Placing hooks is not required, but keeping at least one of the opponent's knees on the ground for 3 seconds is. Not to be misinterpreted when an athlete initiates a takedown movement and the opponent defends by sprawling and controlling the back. This situation is not considered a takedown, and no points will be scored.
So we saw 2 different actions that look really similar, but you're gonna learn another concept that on rules you only score if you are the attacker. Okay? If you are defend yourself, it's mandatory to know how to defend yourself. There is no prize for that. There is no points for defending. Okay? So the first video that we saw was a snap down. That's an offensive move. Okay? He snapped his opponent out. His opponent was on 4. He went to the back. He scored 2 points. The second one, his opponent started a double leg and he sprawl it. That's a defense movement, okay? And after sprawl, he just went to the back and there is no points at all because he was defending himself.
If an athlete takes the opponent down in the safety area and stabilizes for 3 seconds, 2 points will be awarded and the fight will restart in the same position at the center of the mat. While in any position starting from guard, if the athletes remain on their feet for 3 seconds, the combat shall then be considered standing combat. In order to start the 3-second countdown, one of the athletes must have 2 feet on the ground and the opponent at least 1 foot on the ground, without the knee of the opposite leg touching the mat. But when both athletes remain standing for less than 3 seconds and the athlete on defense throws the opponent back to the ground, no points or advantage will be awarded.
So guys, just remind that you only become a standing fight when coming from guard, okay? If you didn't come from guard, there is no standing fight, okay? So imagine that white gi is in the side control, blue gi gonna turtle, grab white gi leg, wash it up. They can be standing for 3 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 days, doesn't matter. It's not a standing fight. It's just a reversal going on, okay? And blue gi cannot take down white gi because of reversal, and white gi cannot take blue gi down because it comes from side control.
The opponent back to the ground, no points or advantage will be awarded. When the opponent has 1 knee or more on the ground, the athlete performing the takedown will only be awarded points if they're standing at the moment the takedown is carried out. On the other hand, if the movement does not initiate from standing, it will not be considered a takedown and no points will be awarded. No points will be awarded in situations where the opponent is taken down from their knees, whether initiated in the guard or any other ground fighting situation. When the athlete uses a single or double leg takedown attempt, but the opponent successfully applies a counter takedown, only the athlete performing the counter will be awarded 2 points. The opponent will not score points or advantage. In a situation where the athlete initiates the takedown movement and the opponent tries to take their back in the process, but does not succeed, it will still count as a takedown and 1 advantage for the back control.
So now, remember that you cannot score well within yourself. You just saw that both athletes was attacking at the same time, okay? One athlete was attacking a takedown and the other one a back take. The takedown was successful, he got 2 points. In the back take he couldn't complete, he just got an advantage.
Be misinterpreted if the athlete takes the opponent down in order to defend a standing back take where the opponent has 1 or 2 hooks in and no feet on the ground. They will not be awarded 2 points or advantage for the takedown.
Now we saw that one was attacking and the other one defends self.
An athlete who initiates a takedown before the opponent initiates the guard pull will be awarded 2 points for the takedown. However, if the athlete who initiates a takedown after the opponent initiates a guard pull, they will not be awarded 2 points or advantage.
So if you initiate a guard pull before takedown, it will be guard pull, no points at all, okay? But if you initiate the takedown before or at exactly same time when someone tries to guard, another one shoot a takedown, always gonna be 2 points as well.
When an athlete has a grip on the opponent's pants and the opponent pulls guard, the athlete will receive 2 points for the takedown if they stabilize the top position on the ground for 3 seconds. When an athlete has a grip on the opponent's pants and the opponent jumps guard and remains suspended in the air, the athlete will have to put the opponent's back on the ground within 3 seconds and stabilize the top position for 3 seconds to be awarded with takedown points. However, when an athlete has a grip on the opponent's pants and the opponent jumps guard and remains suspended for 3 seconds or more, it will decharacterize the takedown attempt and no points or advantage will be awarded.
So, the problem is, the concept of the takedown is when you make your opponent, when you throw your opponent and you make him land by back, sitting, or by side, okay? If you while you pull a takedown, someone jumps guard, he doesn't have the back in the ground, he's not sitting, not by side, because there you have 2 seconds to place your opponent on the ground.
Now we are going to show you how advantages are scored. The referee may only award advantage points once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to reach a point scoring position. When an athlete achieves a takedown and their opponent lands on the ground, but the position is not stabilized for 3 seconds, an advantage will be awarded. When an athlete applies a takedown or a series of takedowns and the opponent returns to their feet before stabilization, only 1 advantage will be awarded when there is no longer a possibility of completing the takedown. Any situation where the athlete takes the opponent down to the ground, lands in guard or half guard, and immediately gets swept by the opponent, they will be awarded an advantage for the takedown attempt, and the opponent will receive 2 points for the sweep. Not to be misinterpreted for when the athlete takes the opponent down, landing free from the legs, then the opponent reverses the position without using guard. 1 advantage will be awarded for the takedown attempt, and no points or advantage will be awarded for the reversal.
Again, okay, to be considered attack or sweep, you would use your legs, okay? So first video, he lands between his opponent's leg, and after takedown, right away, his opponent attack with a sweep, okay? And he got the point and his opponent got the point. In that case, there is no legs at all, it's just a reversal. You consider a reversal, just a defensive movement, so there is no points at all.
Please be advised to these similar situations with different outcomes. When the opponent deliberately flees the match area to prevent the athlete from completing a takedown, 1 penalty will be given to the opponent and 2 points to the athlete.
So we're gonna have to soon review about the single fault, that's the penalty, and we're gonna discuss more about runaway, okay?
However, no advantage or points will be awarded when an athlete attempting a single leg takedown takes the opponent outside the combat area. If the athlete lands the takedown beyond the safety area, no points or advantage will be awarded. But if the athlete lands in the safety area and ends up out of bounds through defending before 3 seconds of stabilization, an advantage will be awarded. For more information on takedowns, visit IBJJF.com/rules. Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course. In this video, we'll be discussing guard passing. Before we start explaining guard passing, it's very important to understand the concept of the guard position. The guard is defined by the use of the legs to prevent the athlete on top from reaching side control, north-south position, or any other control free from the opponent's legs. Half guard is where the athlete...
said that guard was really important for the jiu-jitsu, okay? So, we are the only martial arts that train on bottom, use the legs as a guard, and even that for people that doesn't understand jiu-jitsu, see someone on bottom, really who's in trouble, but the guard make you be offensive even when you are with the back on the guard.
Athlete on bottom has one of the opponent's legs trapped, blocking them from passing the guard. A guard pass is when the athlete on top position manages to free themselves from the opponent's guard, clearing their legs and stabilizing position for 3 seconds. If the opponent turns to their side, the athlete will still score 3 points for the guard pass, as long as they control the top position. When the athlete clears the opponent's legs and gives up top control to attempt an armbar, he will only score guard pass points if he gets back on top and stabilizes top control for 3 seconds or more.
So you can give up a point score position for a higher one, okay? And then if you couldn't complete the higher one, as like he couldn't finish with you, if he comes back to the previous one, he still can score that point, okay?
Please pay attention to these next specific situations and their respective interpretations. Trapping an arm with the lasso position will not stop points from being scored when the athlete passes.
So lasso, okay? If the leg is bent like that, chest with chest, has 100% control, like you're gonna score 2 points, okay? And from that position, if the boogie use the legs to sweep white D, from exactly that position, after white D score 2 points, there is no sweep anymore, okay? If he sweeping still while white D couldn't complete the guard passing and still fighting to stabilize, he can score 2 points, okay?
However, when the opponent on bottom has the foot on bicep control with the leg straight, the athlete will not receive points because the guard position is still active. While attacking from top position, the athlete ends up on bottom and uses their legs to prevent the opponent from reaching side control. It will be considered guard and points or advantages will be awarded regarding the guard pass. But while attacking from top position, the athlete ends up on bottom and does not use their legs to prevent the side control. No points or advantages will be awarded for the guard pass.
The first one, there was leg, okay, when there is leg, there is guard. The second, there was not.
When a reverse triangle is initiated from guard, it will still be considered a guard position. If the athlete manages to clear the legs and stabilize for 3 seconds, it will be considered a guard pass. On the other hand, if the reverse triangle does not start from the guard, it will not be counted for points as a guard pass. Now we are going to show you how advantages are scored. The referee may only award advantage points once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to reach a point scoring position. When the athlete manages to pass the opponent's guard, but the opponent recovers guard before 3 seconds of stabilization. When the athlete manages to pass the opponent's guard, but the opponent turns to all fours before 3 seconds of stabilization, even without controlling the back, this will count as an advantage. An advantage will also be scored when the athlete stacks the opponent or allows them to roll back and maintain at least one of the opponent's knees on the ground while controlling their back. However, when the athlete stacks the opponent or allows them to roll back and does not control the opponent's back, no points or advantage will be awarded.
Okay, so if you stack the opponent, or if he rolls back by itself, doesn't matter who did the move, okay, who initiated the move, you always have to go above the shoulder lines, okay, to control the back to get that advantage.
In the next footage, we will see situations that are worth an advantage for half guard. The athlete must have a stable half guard top control in order for an advantage to be scored. And remember, the athlete only scores an advantage once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to pass the opponent's guard. When starting from pulling guard, the athlete achieves half guard control over the opponent, but does not solidify the pass.
So guys, advantage for half guard is because you are in the halfway to pass your opponent's guard, okay? So you never can score advantage for half guard at the same time, in the same motion that you're gonna pass his opponent's guard, your opponent's guard after, okay? Otherwise you're gonna be scored twice for the same position, okay? So if you think any half guard that's able to get advantage, you're only gonna be able to get that advantage if for any reason you couldn't complete the guard pass.
When starting from any kind of guard, the athlete achieves half guard control, but does not solidify the guard pass because the opponent recovers. When starting from guard, the athlete achieves half guard control over the opponent, but does not solidify the pass. Remember, the athlete only scores an advantage for half guard if they don't pass the guard because the opponent recovers or sweeps or the time runs out.
So for us, what's considered stable guard control on top? So not necessarily you need hug the head, okay? Because imagine that you have both feet on the corner and just you are strong enough to stack your opponent on the ground and control him, it's considered control, okay? Your opponent doesn't need necessarily be flat, can be by side, okay? Control means your opponent is stopped in a defensive move and you are controlling him, okay? At the end of this half guard, we're gonna see half guard that there is no control, so it's easy for you on somebody, okay?
The half guard position will not count as an advantage for the athlete on top if the guard pass is completed. If the athlete sweeps or takes the opponent down and lands in a stable half guard position, they will score 2 points but will not count for a half guard advantage, even if the opponent recovers guard.
If you full half guard, your opponent can score advantage, okay? There is no advantage for half guard. If you sweep your opponent and land already in the half guard, or if you take your opponent down and already land on half guard, okay? But if your opponent decides to go for half guard, you still can score advantage.
The following half guard positions are not worth an advantage. In a reverse half guard situation, when the athlete on bottom pushes the opponent away with the knee. When the athlete on top doesn't have a stable top control due to the technique that's being developed by the opponent. Any questions or concerns regarding guard passing, please visit IBJJF.com/.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
In this video, we'll be going over knee on belly. The knee on belly points are scored when an athlete is in top position, free of any kind of guard, and the knee or shin that is closest to the opponent's hips is placed on the belly, chest, or ribs for at least 3 seconds. The opponent can be flat on their back or on their side. Posture does not matter in order to score points. What is important is that the athlete's knee or shin is placed on the opponent's torso and the opposite knee is off the mat. If the opponent defends by pushing the athlete off of the knee on belly position, the athlete will have a chance to try the position again. If the athlete holds the knee on belly position for a second time, they will be awarded another set of 2 points. Now we will be showing you how advantages are scored. The referee may only award advantage points once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to reach a point scoring position. When you get the knee on belly position, but leave the opposite knee on the mat.
Remember that you don't get advantage for being that position only if you do not complete the knee on belly, okay? Because again, you cannot score twice in the same position. So remember that advantage is just marked by the referee, and you no longer have a chance to complete the point score movement anymore.
When your opponent defends the position before you establish control for 3 seconds. Here is a position where no points or advantages will be awarded. When the athlete places the knee closest to the opponent's head on the torso. Here are some situations where you will not be awarded an extra set of points. After the knee on belly position has been established and the points are scored, if the athlete leaves the position voluntarily and then goes to the knee on belly position for a second time, they will not be awarded a new set of points. Even if the athlete switches for knee on belly to the other side of their opponent.
Okay, so on your belly, if by yourself you remove the knee to try to score again, no points at all. Okay, even that you can decide. But if your opponent is who removed your knee, you can score again and again and again.
If you have any /rules. Thank you.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
In this video, we will be discussing the mount position. The mount points are acquired when the athlete is on top, free of the guard, sitting on the opponent's torso, and with both knees and both feet on the ground for at least 3 seconds. This is known as classic mount. The athlete may also have 1 foot and 1 knee on the ground, facing the opponent's head. This is known as technical mount. The feet can also be hooked around the opponent's legs and not touching the mats. The athlete can also have their feet crossed. If the opponent has one arm trapped underneath while mounted, this still counts as 4 points, as long as the athlete's knee is below the opponent's shoulder. Here is a position where an athlete can acquire another set of 4 points, separate from the regular mount position. When the opponent is flat on their stomach and the athlete is on top mount position for at least 3 seconds. This is known as back mount.
So remember guys, back mount is not the same for back take, okay? Back take, you need to put both foot inside the opponent's thigh.
Next, we will show you a sequence of transitions to explain how points will be scored for mount and back mount. The athlete starts off receiving 4 points for mount, even if the opponent is on their side. The following position does not count as another set of 4 points.
So side mount always gonna be 4 points if it's the first mount, okay? If it's not the first mount, if it's between you change back mount to regular mount, always gonna be a transition.
As the opponent returns to their side, it will be considered a transition and will not be awarded another set of 4 points. Until they turn completely face down, then the athlete will be awarded for back mount if they hold for at least 3 seconds. If the athlete then is able to place both hooks in and hold for at least 3 seconds, they will be awarded another set of 4 points for back control.
So if you keep changing back mount to back mount to back take, from back to back mount, Your opponent's gonna point, you're gonna mount again, always gonna be 4 more points, okay? Infinity times. Doesn't matter how many times you're gonna have.
Now we will
Remember, every time that you switch, or you position that the quarterback mounted fullback fake, you need 3 more seconds of WH.
be showing you how advantages are scored. The referee may only award advantage points once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to reach a point scoring position. Like when the opponent has one arm trapped underneath the athlete's leg, but the knee is above the shoulder. Or when both arms are trapped underneath the athlete's legs. When the athlete is able to get mount position, but the opponent escapes before 3 seconds of stabilization. Here are some positions where no points or advantages will be awarded. When the athlete is attacking the triangle from top position, they will not score 4 points or an advantage for the mount position.
So remember guys, top triangle is not any kind of mount, okay? You have both knees above the opponent to the line, and you have a submission, so it's not any mount position.
Or when the athlete sits on the opponent's torso and faces the legs.
So remember the efficiency of real self-defense? So there is no efficiency if you give your back to opponent in a real fight, okay? Because that kind of mount is not football, okay? But watch out, because if it's coming from a guard passing, you still can score 3 points normally for guard passing, but not from a mount.
If you have JF, in this video, we will be discussing back control. Back control points will be received controlling your opponent's back with your heels placed inside opponent's inner thighs, passing through each side. Top control with your hands is not necessary. If you keep your hooks in for 3 seconds, you will receive 4 points. It makes no difference if your opponent has one arm under the leg. You will still receive 4 points. Without losing control of your opponent's back, you end up losing your hooks and then manage to regain them. You cannot score a new set of points for this. Now we will be showing you how advantages are scored. The referee may only award advantage points once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to reach a point scoring position. When your opponent has both arms underneath your legs.
Remember that all advantage when you no longer have a chance to complete the point score position.
When you have your opponent's back, you keep your feet crossed instead of placing hooks.
So a lot of people ask why cross feet like that is not 4 points. Because it's not a safe position, okay? You can be attacked. You remember the teaching method? So you cannot teach that in academy because the white belt, blue belt that's not prepared for that cannot teach, okay?
When you have your opponent's back, keep the body triangle. When you have your opponent's back, but are only able to place one point.
You want to ask, is it okay on white belt? Yes, it's okay. It's considered a straight foot lock, okay? So white belt can do it.
When you have your opponent's back, but do not stabilize the position for 3 seconds. If you still have any questions or concerns regarding this,
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
in this video, we'll be going over sweeps. Before we start explaining sweeps, it's very important to understand the concept of the guard position. The guard is defined by the use of the legs to prevent the athlete on top from reaching side control, north-south position, or any other control free from the opponent's legs. In this video footage, we show some of the most used guard positions to help clarify this concept. A sweep is when the athlete on bottom uses any kind of guard to invert the position, forcing the opponent who was on top to now be on bottom for 3 seconds or more.
Remember that every time that you initiate a sweep, it has to be with your leg, okay? Otherwise there is no point.
This counts as 2 points. In this footage, we show some examples of where sweep points are awarded. Even if the athlete gets to their feet and then manages to put the opponent down to the mats before 3 seconds of standing, this is going to be considered a sweep, and the athlete will score 2 points after 3 seconds of stabilization. When a reverse triangle initiates from guard, it will still be considered guard position. If the athlete manages to get on top, it will be counted as a sweep and score 2 points.
So every time people ask if a reversal triangle is guard, the answer is always if you start from guard, okay? If you start while you are playing guard, you guard. If you start like you're gonna see now, frontside control, there is no guard.
On the other hand, if the reverse triangle does not start from the guard, it will not be counted for points as a sweep. Here's another way to score sweep points. While the opponent is on all fours, the athlete inverts the position, controlling the opponent's back, keeping at least one of the opponent's knees on the ground for at least 3 seconds. During a movement, if the athlete tries a different form of progression or submission, the referee must wait for the end of the sequence. If at the end of the sequence the athlete finishes on top with back control and below the shoulder line, 2 points and respective advantages must be awarded.
Remember when we talk about if you give guard point score position for a higher one, you're not gonna lose if you can't complete the high one? We remember that, okay? So right when you play guard, you arm drag with you to come on top. If you would stay here for 2 seconds, 2 points, and we're not discussing that anymore, okay? But the problem is that before 3 seconds, he just like take the back, and now he's by side, he's not on top. He cannot sweep because he's not on top. He's by side, and he can't take the back, okay? If he plays both moves, take the back, no problem at all as well. 4 points for back take, advantage for sweep, and the fight's going to keep going on, okay? But the problem is, if he couldn't complete the back take, doesn't matter how long it takes, 3 seconds, 30 days, if he decides to come back on top, you can score 2 points for sweep, okay?
Awarded. To show you how advantages are scored. The referee may only award advantage points once there is no longer a chance for the athlete to reach a point scoring position. When the athlete attempts to sweep but does not hold the position for at least 3 seconds because the opponent fights out of the position and manages to get back on top. When the athlete sweeps the opponent but the opponent fights to defend, ending out of bounds before 3 seconds of stabilization. When the athlete attempts to come around the back, but the opponent counters by standing up. Here are some situations where the athlete does not score any points or advantages. The athlete who initiates the sweep movement, but deliberately gives up top position in order to preserve a defensive position, will not be awarded an advantage for the sweep.
Going to deduct the point score position just for defensive move. Just because you want to score advantage and use as a strategy, you're not going to get any advantage, okay? The same applies for guard passing. For pass, you guard. Instead of try stabilize, I just pull guard again, no advantage for guard passing.
Any sweep attempt that starts and ends in a 50-50 guard situation will not be awarded advantages. When the athlete gets the opponent to sit, but the opponent recovers before the athlete reaches top position.
When the athlete sweeps the opponent but lands beyond the safety area. In a sweep movement, when both athletes remain standing for less than 3 seconds and the opponent manages to throw the athlete back in the guard position. Here are some unique situations where the opponent can score takedown points from any position starting from the guard. While in any position starting from the guard where the athletes remain on their feet for 3 seconds, the combat shall then be considered standing combat. In order to start the 3-second countdown, one of the athletes must have 2 feet on the ground and the opponent at least 1 foot on the ground without the knee of the opposite leg touching the mat. Both examples shown are where the opponent can score on the athlete. The following scenario is the only case where the athlete will score 2 points and the opponent will be given 1 penalty. When the opponent deliberately exits the match area to prevent the athlete from completing a sweep or a takedown. If you have any more questions or concerns regarding cumulative points, athletes shall be awarded cumulative points when they progress through a number of point-scoring positions, as long as they stabilize the final point-scoring position for 3 seconds. Example 1. The athlete earns cumulative points even if the opponent escapes before the referee completes the gestures. 2 points for the sweep, 4 points for mount. Example 2. 2 points for the sweep, 4 points for back control. Example 3. If the athlete is unable to stabilize the sweep but successfully stabilizes the back control, they will score 1 advantage for the sweep plus 4 points for back control. During a movement, if the athlete tries a different form of progression or submission, the referee must wait for the end of the sequence. If at the end of the sequence the athlete finishes on top with back control and below the shoulder line, 2 points and respective advantages must be awarded. Example 4. Athletes shall be awarded cumulative advantages when they progress through a number of scoring positions but are unable to stabilize them. Example 5. Athletes who arrive at a cumulative point-scoring position while caught in a submission hold shall only be awarded points once they have freed themselves from the attack and stabilized the position for 3 seconds. Here are some examples of cumulative points. Sweep and mount. Sweep and knee on belly. Sweep and back control. Guard pass and knee on belly. Guard pass and mount or technical mount. Takedown and mount. Takedown and knee on belly. All moves above should be awarded after 3 consecutive seconds of stability. If you have any questions, rules. Fouls and penalties. Fouls are disciplinary or technical infractions addressed in the rules that are committed by athletes before, during, or after a match. Disciplinary fouls, technical fouls, lack of combativeness, serious fouls, severe fouls. Disciplinary penalties, summary disqualification from the match and competition at the moment of the infraction. A. When an athlete directs profane language or obscene gestures at his or her opponent, the center table, table officials, referee, or public, prior to, before, or after a match. B. When an athlete exhibits...
So guys, all example that you're gonna see, okay, is disciplinary penalty. When that's happened, okay, you're gonna be removed from the grapple, okay? So match that you fall in the semi-final or in the final, you're not gonna join the podium. Okay, you're gonna remove you from the bracket. And the keeps getting worse. So match that you won the division, and then you are fighting the open class, you're gonna meet any disciplinary that you're gonna see now. We're not gonna join the body for open class, and also we're gonna remove the medal from the division. Okay, you're gonna lose the division as well. Okay, and if that's happened in the first day, that normally is the good day, and you also sign up for no-gi, you're gonna be removed from no-gi as well. Okay, so please be a good guy.
It's hostile behavior towards an opponent, referee, or any other member of the organizing committee or public, prior to, before, or after a match. C. When an athlete bites, pulls hair, strikes, or applies pressure to the genitals or eyes, or intentionally uses a traumatic blow of any kind, such as punches, elbows, knees, headbutts, kicks, etc. D. When an athlete exhibits offensive or disrespectful behavior towards an opponent or the public through words or gestures during a match or in celebrating victory. E. When one or both of the athletes disregard the seriousness of the competition and perform actions simulating a fake combat.
So if you and your teammate, okay, is in the same division, and you guys gonna fight, two options, okay? Or you close out and decide who's the winner, or you guys fight for real, okay? If you go there to try to do any fake fight, anything, both gonna be disqualified and you will disciplinary, okay? You're not gonna go into the court.
F. When the athlete exhibits attitudes considered incompatible with the competition environment or commits any other misconduct or delict, even if it is carried out prior to or following a match. If you /rules.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
Here is the sequence in which penalties are distributed.
So in a match, we have 4 penalties, okay? Penalty for advantage for your opponent, penalty 2 points for your opponent, and disqualification. Just keep in mind that these are 6 penalties, okay? Penalty for advantage, penalty 2 points, penalty 2 points, penalty 2 points, and then only the 6th one, the kid's gonna be disqualified.
The first penalty is given by itself on the scoreboard. When the second penalty is given, 1 advantage is given to the opponent. When the third penalty is given, 2 points are given to the opponent. The fourth penalty will be followed by disqualification. Note, in the under 15-year-old divisions, on an athlete's 4th and 5th fouls, the referee shall award 2 points to the opponent and 1 penalty point to the perpetuating athlete for each penalty. Only on the 6th penalty shall the referee disqualify the perpetuating athlete.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
This video will be discussing lack of combativeness. When both athletes pull guard at the same time, even if the athletes are moving, it will be considered lack of combativeness, and the referee will look at their watch and start a 20-second countdown. If at the end of the 20-second countdown, one of the athletes does not reach the top position, does not have a submission hold in, or is not imminently completing a point-scoring move, the referee will stop the fight and give a penalty to both athletes. In this situation, the referee will restart the combat in standing position.
So basically, double guard team, if you go back to the double guard team, you're gonna look at the watch, okay? Both have 20 seconds to reach top position. Who else reach top position first? Gonna earn 1 advantage. If after 20 seconds no one decides to reach top position, both gonna be penalized and the fight gonna restart standing and separate.
When both athletes pull guard at the same time, the athlete who achieves top position before the end of the 20-second countdown earns an advantage. In cases that the athlete achieves the top position by going straight to side control, they will not receive points nor an advantage regarding the guard pass.
Because there is no guard established yet.
During a submission attempt, the referee will not interrupt the 20-second countdown and will not stop the fight while the submission is still locked. If the athlete manages to get on top without losing the submission hold, he will be awarded an advantage regarding reaching top position. However, if after the 20-second countdown the athlete loses the submission before getting on top, he will not be awarded an advantage regarding reaching top position. In this case, the referee will stop the fight and give a penalty to both athletes and restart the combat in standing position. If an athlete is about to complete a point-scoring move after the 20-second countdown during a double guard pull situation, the referee will not interrupt the fight and wait to see if the athlete will be able to complete the move. If the athlete does not complete the point-scoring move ending up in the double guard pull situation, the referee will then stop the fight and give a penalty to both athletes before restarting the combat in standing position.
With a reminder that to reach top position also moves from the back, okay? So he was trying to take the back. And while he has one hook to come on top, we're gonna end back again.
In this example, the athlete in the white gi pulls guard first. Notice that the referee doesn't look at the watch, which means that one of the athletes pulled guard first. With that being said, if the athlete that pulled guard first manages to get on top, he will be awarded 2 points for the sweep. If an athlete is in the 50-50 guard position and grips the lapel or the belt of their opponent, the athlete will have 20 seconds to pursue positional progression before receiving a penalty for lack of combativeness, as described in Rule 6.2.1. An athlete will receive a penalty as described in Rule 7.3.1.
What do you look for in a back kick attempt to keep the guard to form? So if someone is almost taking the back, always make a beating goal. If he, anytime that they come back to double guard pull, both legs each other like that, then we're gonna stop the fight, okay?
If positional progression has not been achieved after 20 seconds, regardless of intention.
So guys, 50-50 guard situation, okay? Guard means you're on bottom, okay? So if you're on bottom and play 50-50 guard, and you wrap your opponent's legs with the lapel or belt, okay? That's lack of combativeness, and the referee will start a 20 seconds countdown right away, okay? There is 2 ways for you to not be penalized. First, if in 20 seconds you could complete the sweep, you come on top and get the 2 points. That is, the 20 seconds going, and no penalty at all, okay? Or, if before the 20 seconds, you let it go the lapel and belt, and also play another guard. Because if you let it go the lapel belt, but you remain in the 50-50 guard situation, you're still gonna be penalized the first penalty. The referee will not just start the second one, because you are not in that original position anymore, okay? But if you keep that position that you see the screen for 20 seconds, and be penalized, if you keep that, you're gonna start right away the second countdown. Okay? So everything that you put in your mind to ask now, the answer is gonna be penalty. Okay? We did the rules to avoid this kind of guard. Okay? So if you decide to play 50-50 guard situation with lapel belt, just remember that you have 20 seconds to sweep or to play another guard, otherwise you're gonna be penalized.
Lack of combativeness, or stalling, is defined by one athlete clearly not pursuing positional progression in a match. The referee shall count out 20 consecutive seconds, issue the verbal command, Luchi, and perform the gesture of lack of combativeness. For example, when an athlete in an opponent's guard does not seek to pass guard, and at the same time prevents the opponent from seeking positional progression from guard. When the bottom athlete playing closed guard wraps his or her arms around the opponent's back or performs any other controlling movement, clutching the opponent without intending to achieve a submission or score. While standing, an athlete grabs and maintains his or her hand on the opponent's belt, preventing the opponent from completing a takedown movement and without attempting an attack of any kind. When neither athlete demonstrates combativeness simultaneously during a combat situation.
So every time that both athletes want to be penalized for stalling, okay, the referee has to stop the fight because it takes longer to make the adjustment.
Note, in situations where both athletes are penalized for lack of combativeness, resulting in a third penalty for each, the match will restart standing.
So, both gonna get the third penalty for stalling. Both, okay, at the same time. Blue B has 2 penalties, White B has 2 penalties, and both gonna be penalized as the third one, as a lack of combativeness. The referee will stop the fight and restart them separate, just to have another chance to see if something different gonna happen.
If the athlete has already received penalties for serious fouls on the scoreboard, these penalties will be added to the penalties for lack of combativeness. Lack of combativeness, or stalling, is not declared when an athlete is defending his or herself from an opponent's attacks from mount, back control, side control, or north-south positions.
So basically, when you defend yourself, you cannot be penalized.
Lack of combativeness will not be considered when an athlete is in mount or back position, as long as the characteristics of the technical position are respected.
So there is no penalty, okay? You can hold that the whole time.
However, it will be considered lack of combativeness if the athlete, without respecting the characteristics of the technical position, clearly is not pursuing positional progression. In this example, the athlete has the back control but does not have the hooks in place. If you have any questions regarding lack of combativeness,
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
in this video we'll be discussing serious fouls.
So serious foul is that one that has no as a penalty, okay, that everybody knows. So remind, when it's lack of combativeness, like stalling, the ref is gonna make the gesture of penalty, he's gonna say luchi, that means combat, okay? Right. And when it's a normal penalty, described in the rule book, that is 24, it's foul, okay? That means false.
Fouls are disciplinary or technical infractions addressed in the rules that are committed by athletes before, during, or after a match. In the next sequence of videos, we will be showing you many of the situations in which an athlete will be penalized from a serious foul. When the athlete kneels, sits, or pulls guard, remaining in the position without the establishment of a grip. Here is another example for better understanding this concept. When a standing athlete flees out of bounds of the match area, avoiding combat with the opponent. When a standing athlete pushes their opponent to outside the match area without clear intent of attempting a submission or scoring. When an athlete on the ground evades combat by sliding themselves outside of the match area. When an athlete on the ground stands to escape combat and does not return to the combat on the ground.
So that kind of fight, okay, who's on top, it's mandatory to engage, okay guys?
When an athlete breaks the grip of the opponent pulling guard and does not return to the combat on the ground.
And people ask, oh, it's 20 seconds, how many seconds? There's no seconds, okay? As soon as the referee figure out that the guy's not trying to engage, doesn't matter if it passes 1, 2, or 3 seconds, you're gonna be penalized.
When an athlete intentionally removes their own gi or belt, causing the match to be stopped. When an athlete grabs the opening of the opponent's sleeve or pant leg with the fingers placed inside the garment, even if performing a sweep or any other maneuver. In this case, the referee will reconstruct the position with a legal grip undone and restart the match. In this scenario, when the athlete makes an illegal grip in a submission attempt, the match will restart standing with a single penalty given to the athlete that made the illegal grip.
Remember that is the only single penalty because it's the attacker doing the illegal grip, okay?
When an athlete grabs the inside of the opponent's gi top or pants. Or when the athlete steps inside the gi jacket. Or when the athlete passes a hand through the inside of the opponent's gi to grip the external part of the gi. When an athlete communicates to someone, orally or through gestures, in a manner that contradicts the decision made by the referee. When an athlete disobeys a referee order. When an athlete exits the mat area after a match but before the referee has announced the result.
He just didn't lose the fight because he doesn't have 2 penalties. But imagine that he has 2 penalties, he tapped his opponent, and then he pulled like that and go out of the fight area to celebrate to whatever, and he got the 4th penalty, he's gonna be disqualified, okay?
When the athlete deliberately runs away from the fight area to avoid an inferior position or consolidation of the opponent's score. Exclusively in this case, the referee must mark the athlete who fled the match area with a penalty, award their opponent with 2 points on the scoreboard, and the match will restart from standing position. The marked penalty must follow the sequence of penalties.
So, run away, okay? If you do any movement that is not the right way to defend, just because you want the fight to make out of bounds because you are in a inferior position, you're gonna be penalized and your opponent gonna get 2 points, okay? But imagine that you already has 1 penalty and then you decide you run away, okay? You're gonna be penalized, your opponent gonna get 2 points, plus 1 advantage because it's the 2nd penalty, okay? Another example, imagine that you already has 2 penalties, okay? And then you decide to run away, that's your 3rd one. It's gonna be penalty for you, 2 points for your opponent, plus 2 points for your opponent, because it's the 3rd penalty, okay?
Here is another example to help clarify this concept. When an athlete in a stabilized position deliberately flees the match area, the referee will interrupt the fight, apply the corresponding penalty, and restart the fight in the same position that they were.
So if you run away and you cross the safety area in a stable position that the referee can recreate at the center, he's gonna do it, okay? That's the only way in a whole fight that if you guys cross the safety area, okay, totally, the referee will start at the same position, okay? In all other cases, the fight gonna be restarted standing and separate.
When an athlete places a hand or foot on their opponent's face.
Face means mouth, nose, or eyes, okay? If you put your feet, chin, forehead, it's fine.
When an athlete intentionally places their foot in their opponent's belt. When an athlete purposely places their foot on the lapel of their opponent's gi without having a hand grip to provide traction for their foot. When an athlete places the foot in the lapel behind the opponent's neck, with or without gripping it. When an athlete runs around the match area and does not engage in combat. When an athlete unintentionally reacts in a way that places their opponent in an illegal position. When, in the under 15-year-old divisions for all belts and in all white belt age groups, an athlete jumps for close guard on a standing opponent, including any and all attacks initiated by jumping guard, such as but not limited to flying triangles and flying arm bars. When such moves occur, the referee will stand both athletes up again.
Okay, so white belts and kids cannot jump in front, okay? So I standing fight. If your opponent is kneeling, you can jump because the rules was made to avoid someone hurting knees, okay? As you are kneeling, there's no chance to get hurt your knee. So that should be for a standing.
Should one athlete be defending an attempted takedown or sweep and jump guard, the punishment shall include 2 points being awarded to the opponent. When an athlete, during a match or celebrating victory before being announced as the winner, exhibits attitudes not appropriate for the competition environment, but does not qualify as a disciplinary penalty as described in
It's white belt in all these divisions. Doesn't matter the belt for kids, okay? They cannot jump front.
Item 6.1. For example, gestures or exercises meant to suggest physical superiority, dances or attitudes meant to ridicule within a sporting context. For Jiu-Jitsu no-gi, when an athlete grabs hold of his/her uniform or that of his/her opponent in any way.
So no good for uniform at all at no gi, okay?
When an athlete uses his or her own belt or the opponent's belt to assist in a choke or any other circumstance in a match while the belt is untied.
But if the belt's tied, you can use it normally for a submission, okay?
When an athlete takes more than 20 seconds to readjust their uniform, they shall be penalized in a consecutive manner. 20 seconds for gi top and belt, 20 seconds for identification belt, and 20 seconds for tying the drawstring of the pants when necessary. If you have any questions or concerns regarding serious...
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
This video will be discussing severe fouls.
So severe foul is the disqualification, okay? The DQ.
Fouls are disciplinary or technical infractions addressed in the rules that are committed by athletes before, during, or after a match. In the next sequence of videos, we will be showing you many situations in which an athlete will be disqualified from a severe foul. The first severe foul is when the athlete's gi is rendered unusable and are unable to exchange it for a new one within a period of time stipulated by the referee.
Normally the referee gonna give you 5 to 10 minutes, okay?
When an athlete deliberately flees the match area to avoid submitting to a hold applied by their opponent. When being attacked by a submission hold, the athlete commits a penalty that obliges the referee to interrupt the match.
So if the referee acts fast and remove the illegal grip without stopping the play, without the athlete use it to defend, the ref just gonna keep going on with a single penalty, okay? But as he used to escape, there is a penalty.
When an athlete intentionally attempts to get their opponent disqualified by reaching in a way that places the opponent in an illegal position. When it comes to the referee's attention that an athlete is not wearing an undergarment under their uniform, as outlined in item 8.3.10 of the rulebook. When an athlete applies creams, oils, gels, or any slippery substance to any part of the body. When the athlete utilizes any substance.
Be careful, guys, because sometimes we use gel or hair, and then they start slipping off. If the referee touch and feel, you're going to be disqualified, okay?
Since that increases the adherence in any part of their body.
Another example is some athletes maybe sacrifice magnesium on the hands after gymnastics, okay? That's a disqualification.
Or when the athlete utilizes any substance that makes the kimono slippery for gripping. When the athlete strangles their opponent with one or both hands around the opponent's neck or applies pressure to the opponent's windpipe using the thumb. When an athlete blocks the passage of air to the opponent's nose or mouth using their hands. When the athlete is defending a single leg takedown, while the athlete attacking has their head outside the opponent's body, intentionally projects the attacker to the ground by grabbing the opponent's belt to make them hit the floor with their head. Suplex movements that will project or force the opponent's head or neck into the ground. The next sequence of techniques will show moves that are illegal at all belt levels in the gi and will result in an immediate disqualification. To view the entire table of moves and see which techniques are illegal for a specific division, please visit section 6.2.2, Article M in the rules book at IBJJF.com. Number 16, heel hooks. Number 17, locks twisting the knee.
You can use the lockdown to sweep, okay? You cannot use the lockdown to make your opponent tap by twisting his knee, okay?
Number 23, scissor takedown. Number 19, when applying a straight footlock, turning in the direction of the foot not under attack. However, if the opponent initiates the turn, the athlete is allowed to follow. For brown.
So guys, purple belt and below, okay? Straight foot lock. If you start attacking, you can only turn outside from the legs you attack. Okay? If you turn inside, you're gonna be disqualified. Okay? If your opponent starts twisting in, you can follow him and keep going. Okay? That's purple belt and below. Black belt and brown belt. Above and masters can turn in any direction.
Brown and black belts, all categories. If the athlete attacks their opponent's foot and turns to the side of the unattacked foot, the referee will not stop the fight and no penalty will be applied for this movement. Number 20. In a toe hold, applying outward pressure on the foot. Number 24. Bending fingers backwards. There is no restriction on the use of the following techniques for no-gi, brown and black belts in the adult division.
For proper below, can you make the grip on the top leg before not activating? The purple button below, can you make the grip on the top leg before not activating? You say from straight to block? I couldn't understand you. Yes, you can hold, you just cannot twist. Okay? We're gonna see toe hold now by the video. Okay, the position.
Number 16. Heel hooks. Number 17. Locks twisting the knee. And number 18. Knee reap. Number 19. In a straight foot lock, turning in the direction of the foot not under attack. Number 20. In a toe hold, applying outward pressure on the foot. Now let's explain knee reaping. The reaping knee situation is characterized by when one of the athletes places their thigh behind the leg of their opponent and passes their calf on top of the opponent's body above the knee, placing their foot beyond the vertical midline of the opponent's body and applying pressure on the outside of the opponent's knee inward, while keeping the foot of the leg at risk stuck behind their hip and armpit. It is not necessary for one of the athletes to hold the foot of their opponent in order for the foot to be considered caught or stuck. For purposes of this rule, when one athlete is standing and bearing their weight on the foot of the same leg as the knee in danger, the foot will be considered caught or stuck. Here's an example of a serious foul knee reap. When the athlete...
Michael asked, I know you have been brought up early practice ahead of time. Are there any plans to let master have the same rules as a belt, black belt? Just because we are old to very on time AK. So, you remember the third piece of the rules? That's teaching method. You guys need to understand that I think the rap is different from any other federation or sport, because we care about everyone, not only about the athletes, okay? It's because then we have the teaching method. Anything that we gonna let you do at the tournaments, people will reply at the academy, okay? And we care that the jiu-jitsu has to grow. I am in the IBJJF now, and we have the wall over there the phrase that say make the jiu-jitsu the most practical martial arts in the world. Okay, so and that is it's hard. A lot of times at the academies, there is a masters that's not at the level that the competitors. And if they believe they can do things that the competitors gonna do as a masters, they're gonna hurt itself. And academies cannot grow, and we cannot grow jiu-jitsu. Okay, so we have a rules related with the teaching method, and we try to avoid things to make the jiu-jitsu grow, because then we have so many restrictions about kids as well. Okay, just to try that people reply the right thing on their academy. And trust me, with many years of experience, we know what's gonna hurt you bad more than anyone. Okay, but for sure, with the evolution of the sport and of jiu-jitsu, skills that gonna be unlocked, but also you need to think about the teaching method all the time. Okay, man? Sorry for doing that.
Executes the movement and the characteristics previously mentioned, moving their foot across the vertical midline of the opponent's body. The referee will stop the match, return the position if permitted, and issue a penalty to the athlete before restarting the fight. Now here are examples of severe foul knee reaps. When the athlete executes the movement and the characteristics mentioned with their foot completely crossing the opponent's body limit, it will be considered a trapped foot when the athlete turns inside from the 50-50.
So 50-50 guard situation when you turn inside, that you need to reach your overleg and make the pressure of the knee down, okay, of your opponent, you're going to be disqualified. That doesn't mean you cannot turn inside on 50-50, okay? You can. You just cannot move and force the knee.
Guard, and their opponent is stepping on the ground with the foot that is in the guard at the beginning of the turn. Attention! There is no irregularity when the bottom athlete turns inwards without reaping the opponent's knee. When either of the athletes have a submission hold, it will be considered a severe foul for the athlete crossing their foot in the characteristics mentioned previously.
So who are straight, meaning submission, going to be disqualified. Even that's only the middle line of the box.
There is no irregularity in positions where the foot is not stuck and when the athlete's leg is crossing below the opponent's knee, as previously mentioned. With that being said, the referee will not interfere in a situation where an athlete crosses the leg over the opponent's knee while the foot is free. The athlete is allowed to attack the
saddle, there's so many names for that position, okay? And I believe it's the part that people have more pressure. Okay, so this foot is free. Okay, and it has to be free all the time. That leg is make the loop. Okay, that right leg. So right knee only can attack no whipping at all, okay? Remember, purple belt and below can only turn outside, okay? Purple belt, blue belt, white belt, okay? Only can turn outside, okay? Brown belt and black can turn in any direction. Okay? So now, anything that you do that you lock this foot, you're gonna be disqualified. Like that, like that, like that. Inside ground piece, both hands with the back. Anything that you do that you lock this foot, you're gonna be disqualified. Okay? And people ask, oh, can I knee bar this leg? Yes, you can. If you twist your hips first, you twist your hips, facing that knee straight, and then you grab the foot for make the pressure to knee bar. Okay? If you do not twist your hips and make with the foot to try do a knee bar and then twist your knee, twist your hips, you're gonna be disqualified. Okay?
The athlete was allowed to attack the opposite foot. For purple belt athletes and below, when two athletes are seated with their
so honey hole and white, you're gonna stand because it's a normal way to go, okay? It was not intentional, but the position gonna become illegal.
Legs cross, but in a legal position, and one of the athletes stands up. This causes the opponent on bottom to be in an illegal position. This is because when standing up, the foot that was loose and now stepping on the ground is considered a trapped foot. In this situation, the referee must stop the fight, then place the athlete on bottom in a sitting position and the athlete on top standing at a sufficient distance to allow new grips and then continue the fight. If the situation occurs after a sweep, the referee must wait 3 seconds to define the stabilization. Then, in sequence, stop the fight, award 2 points for the athlete who is on top, place the athlete on bottom in a sitting position, and the other athlete in standing at a sufficient distance to allow new grips and continue the fight.
Okay, that was purple belt, and below we're gonna separate the fight.
For brown and black belt athletes, the referee will not interrupt the fight. No penalty will be applied exclusively in this case.
So brown and black, adult and masters, do not gonna interfere, okay?
If you have any questions or concerns regarding severe fouls, visit ibjjf.com/rules.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
In this video, we'll be discussing rendering a decision. Match decisions shall be issued in the following forms: submission, stoppage, disqualification, loss.
So they're asking about when out is permanent. No, outlock is not permanent. The problem is sometimes when you are doing straight foot long, if it's your opponent that remove it, okay, it's the pressure and if you start, the referee gonna give you the defense. But that doesn't mean it's permanent, okay? Well, I don't know which position to do. It's hard to know by writing like that, okay? And later, you guys have my email, you can send me a video, and I can give you a better answer, okay? So the fight will keep going from that position on brown and black. Yes, adult and masters. We're not gonna interfere.
Consciousness, score, referee decision, random pick. Submission. When an athlete taps twice with his or her hand. When the athlete taps the ground twice with his or her foot. When the athlete verbally withdraws, requesting the match be stopped. When the athlete screams or emits noise expressing pain while trapped in a submission hold. Stoppage. When one of the athletes alleges to be suffering from cramps.
To be suffering cramps and you ask for medic, okay? So you are stopping the fight because that, I'm gonna lose the fight.
When the referee perceives that a hold in place may expose the athlete to serious physical injury.
So at each we stop a lot the fight and tap the bench to avoid their together, okay?
When the doctor deems one of the athletes to be unable to continue a match due to injury rendered by the opponent using a legal hold. When an athlete presents bleeding that cannot be contained after being treated by the doctor on 2 occasions, to which each athlete has the right for each injury and should be provided upon the referee's request. When an athlete vomits or loses control of basic bodily functions with involuntary urination and bowel incontinence. Disqualification. When one or both athletes commits a foul addressed in Article 6, the referee shall apply the penalties addressed in Article 7. Loss of consciousness. The athlete shall be declared to have lost the match upon losing consciousness due to a legal hold applied by the opponent or due to an accident not stemming from an illegal maneuver by the opponent.
That part's funny. Everybody knows that white belt that play guard trade, right? With the leg to anyone. So match by accident, he kicked the guys on the head and the guy that white belt will win the fight, okay? And who pass out because they had trauma cannot compete anymore at that point.
No. Athletes who lose consciousness because of head trauma should not be allowed to compete again in the same tournament and should be directed to undergo treatment from a medical physician. The athlete with the most points shall be declared winner when the match has reached regulation time or in the event of the match being stopped due to both athletes suffering injuries, regardless of the number of advantages the opponent might have on the scoreboard. When there is a draw on the number of points, the athlete with the most advantage points shall be declared the winner. When there is a draw in the number of points and advantage points, the athlete with the least penalty points counted against him or her shall be declared the winner. If at the end of the match both athletes have the same number of points, advantage points, and penalties, it is the duty of the referee or referees, when there are 3 referees overseeing a match, to declare a winner. To determine the winner, the referee should take note of which athlete displayed greater offense during the match and came closest to achieving possible point or submission scoring positions.
So when the fight finish draw, it's gonna be a referee decision, okay? The referee will analyze who gets more close to score and who was more aggressive, who tried more during the whole fight. Okay?
Random pick. In the event of both athletes suffering accidental injury in a final match where the score is tied at the moment of the accident and neither athlete is able to continue in the contest, the result shall be determined by random pick. If you have any questions or rules.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
This video will be discussing referee gestures.
So guys, now we're gonna see referee gestures, okay? There is anything that I can add, but it's really important for you guys. Really pay attention, watch the whole gestures, because gestures is the only way that the referee has to talk to you during the fight, as an athlete or coach, okay? If you are really involved in the fight as an athlete or coach, you need to understand everything that's going on and know every single gesture, okay?
Referees will use an array of gestures and verbal commands to communicate with the athletes and table officials during the match. Here they are, according to match circumstances. Gesture 1 summons the athletes to the mat area. Gesture 2 signals the start of the match.
Combate!
Gesture 3, interruption of the fight, stopwatch, and timeout.
Parou!
Gesture 4, serious fault 1.
Foul!
Gesture 4, serious fault 2, when it is not possible for the referee to clearly point at the athlete to be punished. Gesture 5, stalling 1, penalty for lack of combativeness.
Lute!
Gesture 5, stalling 2, penalty for lack of combativeness when it is not possible for the referee to clearly point at the athlete to be punished.
Lute!
Gesture 5, stalling 3, corner referee's gesture for both athletes stalling.
Lute! Lute!
Gesture 5, stalling 4, corner referee's gesture for one of the athletes stalling. Gesture 5, stalling 5. When a double guard pull occurs, the referee will look at their watch. Gesture 5, stalling 6. Double pull gesture with 3 referees. When the corner referees disagree with the double pull guard, they will stand up and wave the hand representing the athlete that pulled guard after. Gesture 6, disqualification. Gesture 6, DQ2, disqualification for severe fault when there are 3 referees. If the central referee decides to disqualify an athlete due to a severe foul, he will make the gesture before stopping the fight. If at least one of the side referees repeats the gesture, the referee's decision is confirmed and he or she is authorized to stop the fight. Gesture 6, DQ3, disqualification for fault when there are 3 referees. If the referee decides to disqualify an athlete due to the accumulation of 4 penalties, the referee will make a serious penalty gesture before stopping the fight. If at least one of the side referees repeats the gesture, the referee's decision is confirmed and he or she is authorized to stop the fight. Gesture 7, advantage. Gesture 8, 2 points, takedown sweep and knee on belly. Gesture 9, 3 points, guard pass. Gesture 10, 4 points, mount and back control. Gesture 11, point deduction. Gesture 12, announcement of match result. Gesture 12, announcement of match result with 3 referees. In the event of a match ending in a draw, the referee should maintain their position and determine the result of the match by raising the arm representing which of the 2 athletes they consider to have won the bout. Gesture 13, direct athlete to readjust gi. Gesture 14, instruct athlete to remain within match area. Gesture 15, asking the athlete to stand up. Gesture 16, instruct athlete to return to ground in position appointed by referee. Gesture 17, when an athlete grabs the opponent's sleeves or pant legs with 1 or more fingers placed inside the garment. Gesture 18, when a change in point, advantage, or penalty count has been communicated to the central referee by the referees with access to video replay. If you have any questions or concerns regarding referee gestures, visit ibjjf.com/rules.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
This video will be discussing referee format. The organizers of the tournament may opt to appoint 3 referees for a single match whenever they deem it necessary. In this case, 2 corner referees shall be seated in chairs placed at opposing corners of the match area. The corner referees bear the same powers as the central referee, and all or any points, advantage points, or penalty points awarded must be confirmed by at least 2 of the 3 referees.
So every time when we decide to 3 referees, okay, all 3 bear the same power. If one referee gives points, like if one side referee gives points, it's not mandatory for the central referee to follow, but if it's both, yes, okay?
Should there be a consensus between the corner referees and the central referee, the corner referees shall remain seated in the chairs at the corners of the match area. Should there be a conflict of opinion with the central referee, the corner referee should stand up and signal for points, advantage points, or penalty points to be awarded or subtracted using gestures predefined in this rulebook. Should there be a discrepancy between all 3 referees on points to be awarded for the same move, the intermediary decisions shall count. For example, when one referee awards a guard pass, the second awards an advantage point, and the third asks the points to be subtracted, the advantage point shall be recorded on the scoreboard. If the central referee decides to disqualify an athlete due to the athlete committing a severe foul, he will make a gesture before stopping the fight. If at least one of the side referees repeats the gesture, the referee's decision is confirmed, and he or she is authorized to stop the fight. If the referee decides to disqualify an athlete due to the athlete's accumulation of 4 penalties, serious foul, or lack of combativeness, the referee will make the serious penalty gesture before stopping the fight. If at least one of the side referees repeats the gesture, the referee's decision is confirmed and he or she is authorized to stop the fight. In the event of a match ending in a draw, the central referee should maintain his or her position and the corner referee should remain in their seats, determining the results of the match by signaling their arms which of the 2 athletes they consider to have won the bout. When deemed necessary, the IBJJF will use 2 additional referees with access to video replay for the correction of awarded points, advantages, or penalties on the scoreboard.
So now guys, we have a video replay, okay, the VAR, for every single competition, for every single match, okay? The 2 referees will agree each other. We're gonna watch the replay, and then we're gonna agree each other. We're gonna ask for the central referee to make the change, okay? And there is nothing anymore that we can do, okay? Normally when the points being reviewed, the ref is gonna be holding the ear, okay? And when the point is given or removed, we're gonna touch twice below the arm, and it is what it is, no changing anymore.
The correction of any points, advantages, or penalties originally awarded by the central referee will only happen in the event of agreement between the 2 additional referees with access to the video replay. After the 2 referees with access to the video replay have reached an agreement on how to correctly adjust the current score, they will communicate the decision via the radio system. The central and side referees cannot contest the decision reached by the 2 referees with access to the video replay. If you have any questions or concerns regarding referee format, visit ibjjf.com/rules.
Welcome to the IBJJF online rules course.
Referee duties. It is the referee's duty to make sure that athletes fulfill their obligation to compete within the match area. When 2/3 of an athlete's body is outside the match area in a stabilized position on the ground, the referee should stop the match. Note the position of each athlete and restart the match at the center of the match area, with the athletes in identical positions of those they were in at the moment of stoppage. The referee shall interrupt the match, and if needed, stand both athletes up in the center of the combat area when 2/3 of an athlete's body is outside the combat area during ground fighting that is not yet stabilized. One of the athletes steps into the safety area while standing, unless a takedown attempt has already been initiated. Note, any movement that goes beyond the safety area will be stopped. The athletes will be returned to the center of the combat area in a standing position. When an athlete has a submission hold in place in the outlying safety area, the referee should not interrupt the match. When an athlete has a submission hold in place and the opponent defends by moving out of bounds, the referee should call a timeout and restart the match at the center of the match area with the athlete standing.
So guys, it's not all the time that the fight go out of bounds with a submission. That's gonna be 2 points, okay? It's only when who is being attacked is defending in the right way and made the fight go out of bounds, okay? In that case, it would be 2 points for the attacker.
In this case, the referee shall signal for 2 points for the athlete performing the submission hold. When an athlete deliberately flees the match area to avoid submitting to a submission hold applied by his or her opponent, the referee should stop the fight immediately. In this case, the referee shall disqualify the athlete. When an athlete has a submission hold in place and the fight ends up beyond the safety area due to a move made by the attacker adjusting the submission, the referee should call a timeout and restart the match at the center of the match area with the athlete standing. In this case, the athlete shall be awarded an advantage point if the opponent is in real danger of submitting. It is the referee's duty to assess how close the submission hold came to fruition.
As I said before, in this example, you just saw that the attacker made the fight go out of bounds. It's just advantage if the submission was in a real danger situation. Okay?
It is the referee's duty to oversee matches under the 12-year-old divisions to protect the athlete's spinal column by positioning themselves behind the child when lifted off of the ground, as in the case of a triangle or closed guard. If the situation depicted in picture 11 of item 6.3.2 arises when attempting a takedown or any other move coming from the ground with the athletes on their knees or with a sweep motion, the referee shall act in the following way. For juveniles, younger divisions, and white belts, the referee will stop the fight and restart the match with both athletes standing.
So juvenile, kids, and white belts cannot do single leg with the head out. Okay? Different than the jump guard, there's no penalty. Okay? The referee just gonna separate and restart the fight.
No penalties will be given to either athlete. For the other divisions, the referee shall not interfere with the match. Any questions or concerns regarding referee duties, visit ibjjf.com/rules.
So guys, we are done. Okay? Let me just send the link. I already sent to everyone emails the link. Okay? Check if you get it. Okay? So remember, you have 48 hours to start the test. You doesn't need to start right away, but after you start the test, you have 1 hour to complete. Okay? So thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great Sunday. And who gonna be at the Panams? I'm gonna be there. Show up to say hi. Okay? Thank you guys.